So, Dolly, this is your house. Acha. So we're very happy to be here at Dolly's house. We've been here before, right? Because first time, but somebody else must live here. Are there any other devotees here? Seems like I recognized as soon as we drove into the driveway. Seems like I recognized the place. Okay. Maybe in her dreams I was here. So we have very beautiful song of Narottam Das, because the songs of Narottam Das were very dear to Srila Prabhupada. Songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das, these are all very dear to Prabhupada. And this one glorifies Lord Chaitanya and all his associates. So I think everybody knows this song. Otherwise, on your device, you can look up Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. Oh. Hare Krishna. Mosa Patita Prabhu Na Paibe Ara Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balakana Koro Ami Boro Dukhi Daya Koro Sritapati Advaita Gosai Trava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya Nita Ahaswaru Sanatana Rupa Raghunatha Bhatta Juga Sri Divaha Prabhu Lokanatha Daya Koro Siyacharya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sangha Mange Narottama Dasa Daya Koro Prabhupada Sri Saraswati Dasa Koro Prabhupada Sri Saraswati Dasa Vaishnaveda Kripa Mange Adam Dasa Mange Adam Dasa Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Gaura More Toma Bina Ke Dayalo Jagat Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Gaura More Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Gaura More Daya Gaura More Sri Sri Nitai Gaur Sundar Ki So this is a beautiful song of Narottam Das, glorifying Mahaprabhu and all of his very important associates. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Daya Koro More. That my dear Lord Chaitanya, you please be merciful to me. Toma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagata Sansari. In this whole world of samsara, there's no one as merciful as you. Hmm? Huh? Then he prays for, then he says, Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatara. That the reason, Hetu means reason. The reason for your avatar, Patita Pavan. Patit means ourselves, fallen. Patit. Hmm? And Pava means who purifies. So the purpose of your incarnation is to purify the fallen souls, especially of this dark Kali Yuga. Mosamo Patita Prabhu na paibe ara. But like me, you won't find more fallen soul anywhere in this world. And Prabhupada explains the purport is that since you've descended to deliver the most fallen, and there's no one more fallen than me, then I have priority basis. As soon ASAP, as soon as possible, you have to deliver me first. Because daya or kripa, it flows down like water. If we think that, oh, I'm a very big devotee, I preach so nicely, I collect so much money, I make so many life members, I manage the temples, I'm big, big devotee, and we go up, then the water will flow away. Will go to someone else. But mercy, kripa, like water finds a hole, it goes inside and fills it up. So we're like big black holes. everything goes inside. Somehow mercy comes and fills up whatever we're lacking. That mercy makes up for it. Mm. So if we keep ourselves very low, that I'm very fallen and lowly, uh, then Mahaprabhu's mercy will come to us. Otherwise, if we think we're a very great devotee, mercy will go off to someone else. Uh, so this is very, very beautiful uh, song of Lord Chaitanya. Uh, so we were just having Snan Yatra the other day, which means that very soon Rath Yatra will be there. On what day? 20th. 20th is Rath Yatra. Mm. So the pujaris, they say that because they bring Lord Jaganath outside the temple, you can see, everyone can see. Mm. They have a big, tall place where they place the deities. So he's outside and he's being bathed with so many cold water and so many liquids. He catches cold. Huh? So then, for the next 2 weeks, he's what do they call it? Ambasara, huh? Yeah. Nobody can see Lord Jagannath. He's sick, and they make so many special herbs and things like that to nurse him back to health. Actually, what's happening is they're remodeling. Because after 1 year, some of the paint has fallen off, so many things. So they repaint and redo Lord the deities. Then, just to save time, they say every 12 years, but actually, it's whenever Purushottam Mas, which is coming now in probably in the month of Shravan, but when it comes between Snan Yatra and Rath Yatra, then there's 45 days between. Now there's just 2 weeks, but now it's 45 days. So then they do Navakalevaram. And lately that's been happening every 19 years. But I saw the old days. Sometimes it was 7, sometimes it was 11, sometimes, but mostly 19. Just like the year that Srila Prabhupada disappeared, that was also Navakalevaram. The next one was Prabhupada's centennial year, 1996. Again, 19 years later, uh, like that. And I can't remember when the last one. It was also 19 years. Mm. So then Rath Yatra comes, and I still remember very, very clearly the first time I ever went to Rath Yatra. I don't remember, it was either 93 or 94, whatever it was. It was the first year it was on television. Mm. And so because uh, uh, from Snan Yatra, then all the Daitapatis, the descendants of the Sabaras, the pig herders who originally were worshipping him, is uh, Nila Madhav. Mm. Take over the worship. Mm. So they were upset. Was on TV. They thought of me less people will come, but I think it has made it more popular. More people are coming. But that was first year, so they uh, uh, were in very bad mood, and they delayed everything. Mm. And so everything took a long time. But I saw the whole thing. Actually, uh, for us, Rath Yatra is charging down the street, pulling the chariots. But actual real Rath Yatra is just getting Lord Jagannath and Subhadra and Baladev on the carts. Hmm? They call Pahandi, huh? Hmm? Or Pandu Vijay. Huh? So uh, they have everybody's. We got some nice place and some guest house on the balcony of the guest house. Everybody's there. They charge so many extravagant rates. And you can sit there and see all the whole thing. Or if you want to go down to the crowd, it's crazy. But we were up there. We were watching. We were actually. What happened was uh, the devotee Gornitai, who was in charge of the ISKCON Bhakti Kutir, Bhakti Vinod's house there. He made good friends with the police chief, the superintendent of police, and made him a life member and everything. So we had a big kirtan party there. And since we were the newcomers, somebody else was in front of Jagannath, so we were in front of Baladev, and they had a police cordon around our kirtan so that we could chant. And then somebody told me to lead, and I started leading, and I never stopped. I was just too much in ecstasy. uh, and everything was going late, and we were there chanting and chanting. And somehow, luckily, there was clouds because uh, Rath Yatra means rain. If it doesn't rain, they consider it very inauspicious. Uh, so there was nice clouds to shade us, and I saw there was a big billboard there, and there was some sadhus on top of the billboard, and they were just rocking with my kirtan. uh, and there used to be some. I think now all those shops are gone. There used to be some shops right there, and on the roof they had, all the TV cameras were there, and uh, somehow or other, the king, uh, Gajapati, he had paid a lot of attention. We went to his house for prasad one day, and he took us to he, some other venues. We were there with him, so people were seeing. Because ordinarily, especially us white folks, we go to Puri, and they just come out and laugh, ha ha ha, you can't go inside, and they make fun of us like this. But suddenly, people were starting to pay attention, and here we had this big kirtan and our police cordon around and everything, and the TV was there, was zooming in on our kirtan. And somebody as far away as Bangalore, he came to Vrindavan. He said, uh, I recognize that because I always used to have, just a bright yellow Harinam, red and yellow Harinam chadar. That was my signature. He said, that was you, right? That was you. I saw you on TV. So finally, all of a sudden, you hear from well, first of all these guys come out, and there's somebody juggling things, and there's people dancing around with swords and shields and everything. And then behind them, somebody comes, waving so many. I call them like rocket ships. They're made out of cloth, but they look like rocket ships with a big pole in the middle. So they come out dancing, and then behind them, there's so many uh, chamaras and fans, and so many. And they have those, not the regular fan, but these cloth fans that are round like this on a pole, and and then from way inside the temple, they have like 15 people with gongs, mhm, and they're all they have a special beat for every activity. So, but to bring the Lord out, it's ba-da-bam, 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 ba-da-da-da-da-da-bam, ba-da-da-da-da-da-bam, ba-da-bum, and they're all with their big colorful dhotis and everything, and they're made very dramatically rocking like this, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum, and you hear it echoing inside the temple, and it gets louder and louder, and the excitement is growing and growing, and then all of a sudden they come through the singing door. These guys with the gongs, ba-da-dum, and all these chamber whisks are going, and then suddenly you see Lord, because Lord Baladev comes out first. You see Lord Baladev's head with this. I don't know what else to. I always describe it as a peacock mukut. This big white. It's white, but it looks like a peacock's tail. And you see that peek through the gate, and everyone goes wow, and there's just lakhs and lakhs of people, and all the voices. It's just amazing. And then mm, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read that they push them from one cushion to another cushion and all that, but they don't do that anymore. They just and and they rock the Lord like this. You see them rocking the Lord. I remember we used to go before we had ever been to Rath Yatra. We used to go to the Rath Yatra at the Janmastan in Mathura because they also have Jaganath deities. I can never understand. They just have small deities like this, but they would bring them out and they put these little tables there, and then they shake them like this. I said, I wonder what they're doing. And then they go down some steps, and there's a big step like that, and they stop the Lord and go like this. What are they doing? Uh, but when I saw the real Rath, that's what they do. They push, and once they get a little nice momentum, then boom, they move him forward, and all the crowd goes Jai Baladev, lakhs and lakhs of voices. It's just your hair stands on end, you know. And then they bring, Lord Balaram behind all the carts, and then they have this ramp that is actually palm trees that they cut in half like this and rope them all. There's no nails or anything. It's all roped together like this, you know. Well, coconut palm, same thing. uh, they had this big ramp there, and then they have this piece of these silken ropes. They have like there's a piece of luckily behind Lord Jaganath and Baladev and like that, and somehow wrapped around with cloth, and they keep it there, and they have all these silken ropes, and they start pulling Lord Baladev up the ramp. It's very dramatic, and they're pulling and they're pulling. And somehow the year that I was there, Lord Baladev got to the top of the ramp, and then he went like that. And he was just over the ground, and they were all pulling like crazy, and somehow they pulled him up, and he just went back down to the bottom, and they had to push him up uh, again. And you see there's in front of him, behind him, everyone's, they're putting their hands all over his eyes and everything, because they told us that those beautiful that white part of the eye, that is, they pulverize pearls. They make that white out of, so you see all their black handprints all over the eyes and everything. Yeah, somehow Lord Jagannath, they love it. This rocking, they love it like anything. So they're enjoying like anything. They get him up to the top, and then to get him on the place where he stands on the Rath, it's a little high. So they push him up, and then boom, he falls back down. They push him up, and then boom, and then they push him up, boom, and then they turn him around, and then I call this Lob Prakash. You see that beautiful mukut. Within, if you blinked your eyes, you missed it. All the pandits go, if you blinked, you missed it. It's gone, because they can sell a piece of that mukut to their jijman, for a lot of Lakshmi. So this is Lob Prakash. As soon as Lord Baladev turns around, in 2 seconds, that mukut is gone. Then they put a nice turban around him, and they start decorating him and everything. And then next comes Subhadra, but she doesn't like this rocking. Huh? They just put Subhadra on their head, the same thing, the guys dancing around with swords and shields and juggler, and there's one guy with a rope with, little with three places there's fire burning, and he swings it so fast it just looks like a circle of fire, and he throws it up in the air and he grabs it, and then the rocket ships come, and then the flags are coming, and then the chambers, then you hear the sound again, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-dum, and they come out with Subhadra just on top of their heads like this, and they run around behind all carts, and they go up that ramp, and they just plunk. She doesn't like all this rocking like this. She just comes out plunk like that. Now the excitement is getting really intense, And again, you see all these guys, waving swords and shields and throwing this fire thing up in the air and catching it, and then all the rocket ships come, and then the flags come, not the flags, the fans come. And then again, you can hear it from way inside the temple. You hear it echoing against all the temple walls. It reverberates, Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-dum. And it gets louder and louder. And uh, what's your name? The announcer. They have an announcer, telling every part. And somehow he broke into English for some reason, and he was saying, "It's a here comes Lord Jaganath," and all the people are just getting really excited, and suddenly Lord Jaganath's peacock mukut sticks out of the lion gate, and everyone just Jai Jaganath, and that sound goes to your very being, it's just 20 lakhs of voices crying Jai Jaganath, and then they rock him, you know and it's like the rocking is the lightning, and when he moves, the roar of the crowd is the thunder. Joy Jagannath. And then the announcer got very ecstatic and he said, here comes Lord Jagannath. Some people say he has no hands, he has no face, he has no feet, but you can see him. Here he comes, Joy Jagannath. And everyone's Joy Jagannath. And then somehow that year they brought him all around behind the cars. Now I see they just bring him right, from behind his cart like that. They went all around the three carts, and then they brought him up, and they're pushing him up and up and up, and then this, you know, then they take off that's ramp is tied with ropes. They take no, they keep it. That's right, because then and now, when I saw it, there was so much nice pageantry. The king came from his house, which is just down the road. They had a very special, gold leaf pelican with, very royal maroon type of cloth and everything. And they had a huge elephant. Mm. Now they're afraid, there's thousands of millions of people. The elephant goes crazy. That'll go on CNN all over the world. So now they don't bring the elephant anymore. But those days they had a big elephant with beautiful cloth draped over it, and he was in front of the king is behind on this pelican, you know. And then the king comes down, and when we took prasad at his house, he told us that uh, actually when Rath Yatra means that it's rain. So there's no question of sweeping in front of the carts. That's what we do. That's what we misinterpret from Chaitanya Charitamrita. He said, but actually it's raining, so it's mud. There's no question of sweeping mud. And we saw practically, he climbs up on Baladev's cart. He walks up that ramp, and he has a gold-handled broom. And there's a prikama marg around the Didi. There he sweeps. He goes around once with his handled broom, and then they have a silver pot of sandalwood oil with water mixed, and he goes around twice sprinkling sandalwood oil around that prikama mark. He said that's where all the kings sweep like that. So then he goes down, and they start taking off that ramp and they they have a special way they shove these horses. You've seen all the horses there. They shove the horses in there somehow and tie them down. And he goes up and does the same thing, sweeps around Subhadra. Oh, and all the carts. Oh, they also just bring Sudarshan out. He doesn't go back and forth. But all the carts, we've just scratched the surface of Rathia. Each cart has a driver, just like Daruka. He's the driver for Jaganath. And for Subhadra's cart, the driver naturally is her husband, Arjun. They have these big cutouts like this, great big cutouts, very colorful cutouts on the, I guess it's on the right, looking at the card, it's on the right side, And then for Matali is the chariot driver of Baladev's cart. So all the chariot drivers are there. It's so amazing, and everything is so beautiful decorations and all the the little pieces with the swans all around them, and they have this big canopy that goes out over the Lord like that. And into that canopy, there's these gold. I guess they're Gandharvas, and they all have some sort of a trumpet or something, and and the beautiful brass, and brass bells everywhere, and and as I remember, Baladev's horses, I believe they're gray, and then Subhadra's horses, after the king leaves and they take off the ramp, then I can't remember, they're black or something. They're three different colors horses. Huh? Yeah. And then he sweeps around Lord Jaganath and uh, sprinkles around Lord Jaganath, and he comes down and he gets back in his palanquin. He goes back to his palace to watch the Rath Yatra. Yeah. And all Baladev, Baladev is black. And Subhadra? Brownish. And they're mares, they're female horses. And then you very graphically can see that the horses of Lord Jagannath, they're males. Very graphically, I won't describe it. Very graphically, you can see that they're male horses. Mhm. Uh, so that's the real Rath Yatra. Just getting that takes quite some time. But that day it took a long time. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon when they finally got all the carts ready. Uh, and many places I see we do it backwards. We have Jagannath go first, but Baladev, he's the older brother, so he goes first. And so we were there with our kirtan, And all of a sudden, Baladev's car started to move. So we just moved, and you know, they have these ropes that are so long, you can't believe how long these ropes are, and so thick you can't even get your hand around these ropes, you know. And all of a sudden, they just put out the ropes, and we started to move, and then Baladev started to move, and we had to move, and we were going down the down the way, and again the carts, most carts I've seen, they're straight like this, but they're all slanted like this. And on that front part, they have those 15 guys with the gongs. They're on the front part of it's already slanted like this, and they're really dramatically da 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 da, you know. And there's different beats. Now I've forgotten my COVID memory, but there's a certain beat for going straight, and when the Rath goes too far to the right side, then they want you to go left, and there's another beat to go left, because not like in our Rath Yatra we have a microphone and somebody's there, it says go left, pull, stop. They don't have that system. This has been going on for thousands of years, long before microphones were there. So you tell which way to go, which way you should pull the ropes by the beat of the gongs, you know. Da-da-da means goes left, and ba-da-da-da, means go right, and ba-da-da-da means continue on front. And then they have a very interesting brake system. There's a huge piece of wood this wide, I mean this big around, as wide as the carts, wider than the wheels, and it's tied up with a slip knot. And if the carts go too far to the left or right, then they just pull those slip knots. This log falls down, and the wheels run into it. Bam, 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 bam. And they stop. Uh, and before the Rath starts, then there's these two guys on each Rath with these big long horns. And first the gongs start going ba 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 ba. Then they go dwee dwee. Then they go ba bum ba da bum. Everybody starts going, you know. And there's a little announcer who sits on there's some guy sitting on the horses, and when somehow we went off too far to the side, and so they dropped the brake, and you know, and then he started screaming something in Uriya, and I asked one of the boys, "What's he saying? What's he saying?" He said, "No, you don't want to know, bro." I said, "No, tell me, what did he say?" He said, "Come on, what are you guys, a bunch of women or something? You don't have any balls? Pull this cart, pull this cart." Then do it, da 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 da, and they started again. And because it was so late, we saw Subhadra start, and then Jaganath started, and then by that time, because they don't do Rathi after sundown, like we do our Rathiyas, we have big lights and everything, we go all night, but as soon as sun goes down, Rath stops. So that day, because they made everything late, Baladev got a little ways, about halfway down, and Subhadra started down. She got as far as the king's house, and then Lord Jagannath started, and then they made some signal, and that was it. It stopped like that. The Rathi. Hmm? He was just maybe 100 feet down the road. Then they stopped. You know, and so the only kirtan party anybody saw was our ISKCON's kirtan party. And I remember we got way down there was some guest house, and my old friend Sahu, what is his name from Moradabad? Ashok Sahu. He came running down. He recognized that yellow Harinam Chaudhary. So I knew that was you. He came running down to embrace me. And then they stopped. They just stopped the carts. Now, while Lord Jagannath's on the cart, he doesn't take his regular prasad. He only takes the Kadasi prasad. So we were waiting there, and we saw, and these guys come down. They have pots and baskets and so many things on top of their head. And one comes up, and there's one guy standing there with a big pot of tulsi, and the priest, grabs a handful of tulsi, throws it in the pot or the basket or whatever it is. He points it at Lord Jagannath, and then he puts it back on that guy's head. He moves. The next guy comes with a big matka, and he throws a handful of tulsi, and he points it at Lord Jagannath. Like this, they were coming up, and it's nobody's wearing shoes. Nobody has, no. And Jagannath Mahaprasad never goes by vehicle. It always delivered to your house by foot. So they're in the same way they're offering the prasad, they're bringing, points it like this and just puts it back on his head. Next guy, bunch of tulsi and like that. And so since we didn't make it, that meant they were going to have Rath Yatra the next day. Uh, and that day was simply too crowded. You can't believe. As soon as the Rath passes by, they have a police cordon around that only uh, uh, the pandas and daitapatis could go inside. And I remember that when the king was coming down with those big, I don't know if anybody knows Kirtiraj. He's a nice devotee in Alachua, very tall. There's another one who wrote the the book about all the sanskaras and everything. What is his name? Something I can't remember. He's also very tall. And they were walking down in front of the king's procession, along with the king, and or maybe behind, I guess, probably. And they also right inside the loop. And like I said, everybody always just makes fun. You can't go inside. And there was one big fat Daitapati there, and he saw these two foreigners inside there, and immediately whipped out a 100 rupee note from his when 100 rupees was worth something, and he gave it to one of the smaller Daitapati. He says, "Go get some limkas for these guys." They were showing his respect like that. I was just amazed, because the king was showing respect. So, he just whipped out a 100 rupee note, gave it to go buy some limkas for these guys. So, uh, and as soon as the Rath goes by, you just see an ocean of shoes. Whole street is just an ocean of shoes. I remember later Rath Yatras, because to go try to pull, it's just totally insane. So I would go around the side and hang onto the police cordon rope right beside the Raths. And Lord Baladev, he has 14 wheels. Subhadra, she has 12 wheels. And Lord Jaganath has 16 wheels. Mm. And there's no Gajra gears with some type of grease. It's all wood against wood. And when those ruts, I would go and just to listen to the wheels, I would go. Because you hear Lord Baladev's got 14 wheels. They're all in different tunes and they're all going in about 14 different tones coming. And your hair just stands on end. You hear the once it gets going. I would just grab that rope and just go along. And listen, it was just so amazing. But next day, there was, because Rath Yatra Day, everybody comes. So next day, there was hardly anybody there. So we could pull. And by the time we got there, Lord Jagannath was almost to Gundicha. Uh, and then we looked back and I couldn't understand, Subhadra's cart wasn't moving. And then all of a sudden I saw Puri, uh, Puri with the Peninsula Electric Corporation truck. I said, what in the world on Rath Yatra Day is a Puri electric truck, going down the main road, the Grand Road? And then it struck me, because like us, sometimes, Delhi Rath Yatra, we come down GB Marg, it gets a little stretch, narrow at the end, and there's cars, and we have to push cars out of the way, and sometimes back up the cart and get him around. But Lord Jagannath and Baladev Subhadra, they never go backwards for anything. So I figured out that her cart had come in front of the electric pole. So I ran down there, and the guys first of all, they tried to, they just smashed, there's these porcelain, what do you call insulators there. And first they were trying to undo them, but that sea air is filled with salt and it just corrodes everything. And they finally just gave up, their wrenches weren't doing anything. So they just, bam, the wire was going, ping. I hope they turned it off. I don't know. And just bam, and wires were going flying like this. And then they were digging and digging and they got that electric pole and finally, broke it free like this. And then they pulled Subhadra's cart. And then again the Rath started, and then they all got down there to Gundicha. And again, it's a whole celebration to, bring the lords off their carts and into Gundicha. And, that particular year, the Namhata department from Mayapur had come. They always go to Calcutta Rath Yatra, but that particular year, they all went. They wanted to see the Puri Rath Yatra, so they all came. And there was one devotee named Bhadrachara who was in charge of all of them. So they were all there. And day before Rath Yatra, Gundicha Marjan is there. So he took all the devotees. We went to a big kirtan party down from wherever we were staying. I don't remember even. And we went down to Gundicha Mandir. And of course, again, for us whiteys, they won't let us inside. So I told Bhadrachar, you bring some baskets and you bring some brooms. Mm. And we'll clean the entrance because Lord Jaganath has to go through the entrance to Gundicha, and everybody just runs inside to sweep inside. I said he has to come here, and there's plastic and paper and garbage and all. So he brought some brooms and some baskets, and we started sweeping the front entrance. And the Bengalis would just come and pull the brooms out of our hands. They would grab the piles of dust that we had and throw them away. Everybody was amazed because they were coming. They have two little broomsticks like this and a little teacup of water. This is their Gundicha Marjan. And they were all coming and they were all helping us, and it was a lot of fun. Uh, so uh, so then, now I remember, we got the carts finally got to Gundicha, and then there was a bunch of Gaudiya Math parties, and so they were going down to, I believe it's Narendra Sarovar, huh? Behind, little ways behind is Narendra Sarovar. But next temple is uh, the Shringadev, where no foreigners ever gone inside either. And somehow all the Gaudiya and Kirtan parties were going down, circumambulating Nishringadev and coming back out, and our party came and we just went inside and nobody stopped us. We went right up and touched Lord Jagannath's feet and we went around, we're all, hmm? Yeah. And I mean, my chatter was like, you know, just sweating like anything. And, somehow nobody stopped us. We just went right inside, touched Lord Jagannath's feet, circumambulated around. I mean, excuse me, not Lord, Lord Nishingadev. I'm getting too excited. Remembering. And then we went down this big long path and we get to Narendra Sarovar. I just looked at that water. Oh, nice. We jumped in that water. It was like jumping in a pot of dal because I've been sitting in the hot sun all day. uh, uh, oh, yeah, why not? Hmm? But I saw in Puri, the real Rath Yatra is just getting the lords on the carts. After that, it's let down. It's just charging down the street, but getting the lords on, that's the whole pageantry of that is just amazing. You have to see sometime. How much did they want for your viewpoint one time? You, no, you were wanted to go up on some balcony somewhere, and they were going to. He got it for 500 somehow. 4,000 rupees. He wanted to go up in the back. Oh, yeah, right next to the chief minister. My goodness. But Naik, huh? But anyway, one time in life you have to see uh, Puri Rath Yatra. It's an amazing thing. You're going, you'll meet Arta Bandhu there. But he's smart. He takes the train on the day of Rath Yatra because there's no crowd. And when he gets there, Lord is on the carts in front of Gundicha. That he watches. The next morning they watch the uh, what's the reverse Pandi? I guess same thing. Pandi. It's all, And then when you go inside Gundicha, very easily you get darshan. Now they made the corridor. If you go there, it's just amazing. How they just cleared out everything. But they also made it very difficult to see that. You can't see all the three lords at once. There's some pillars there, and you have to go way over here and see, Jaganath, and way over here to see Baladev, and then way over here to see Subhadra. But there in Gundicha, there's no crowd. It's the day after Rath. There's no crowd. You go inside and see Lord Jaganath, and so he always goes on the Rath Yatra day and gets nice darshan. Yeah. Well, you're traveling on the Rath Yatra day, so you arrive on the day after. And very blissfully you can, and close up you can get darshan of Lord Jaganath and Baladev and Subhadra. Mhm. So this Snan Yatra is reminding me of the first time I ever went for Rath Yatra in Puri. So we were remembering a very sweet pastime of Braj, actually of Gokul. Yeah, all the devotees are trying to make arrangements for Mahaprabhu for Maharaj Prataparudra to meet with Mahaprabhu. And he said, I'm a sannyasi. If people see me with the pounds and shilling pence, man, what will they think? You know? But he's your great devotee, maybe a great devotee, but he's, got this, because he's a king, he's got this name, king, I can't meet him. I won't have anything to do with him. So finally they sent the son, because the son is a representative of the father. And he met Maharaj Prataparudra's son and caressed him and embraced him like that. And then Sarvabhauma, he kept pleading with Sarvabhauma. Sarvabhauma says, you wait for Rath Yatra. So one time in Rath Yatra, was it? All right. Oh yeah, when we were reading in Chaitanya Bhagavad, this very incredible description. The king saw Lord Chaitanya. He was dancing in ecstasy. Hmm? Well, he's from his balcony, I guess. No. Okay, all right. You tell the best. I don't remember. No, you translated to me. And that was, before COVID. So now I've been through COVID. But anyway, somehow from a hiding place, he saw these things, and he saw that Mahaprabhu, tears were running down his face, saliva was running down his mouth, and he was saying, how is this the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Hmm? And then all of a sudden, what happened? Yeah. Yeah, he saw. Oh, that's right. That night, because he's shocked seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like this. Then that night, Lord Jagannatha showed him that he was drooling so much saliva, and tears were running down his face, and all of everything was wet and everything. Uh, that, and then Jagannath changed into Mahaprabhu himself, and then he realized he committed a great offense. Achha. Hmm. So during Rath Yatra, there was a special garden. Whenever the Rath stopped for some reason, then Mahaprabhu would take rest in a garden. So Sarvabhaum told him, this is your chance. He said, go there simply in Vaishnava cloth. You give up your crown and jewels and everything. So he just came there with some simple white cotton cloth. And he began to massage Mahaprabhu's legs. Mm. And then he began to sing from Srimad Bhagavatam. Mm. uh, Tavakatamritan tapta jivanam kaviviriditam kalmasapaham Sravana mangalam srimaratatam bhuvi jadantigre buridajana. This is a Gopi Geet or Venu Gopi Geet? And this is this whole slokas are very amazing because each the the first syllable and the middle of the line syllable are all the same. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibir iditam kalmashapanam sravana mangalam srimadatatam bhuvi janantigre buridajana. So all the middle and the beginning and middle syllables are the same. And Mahaprabhu said, Burida, Burida, Burida. You're the most beautiful person. Keep singing, keep singing. You know. And he sang all these beautiful Gopi Geet verses to Mahaprabhu and massaged him. And then he finally got the mercy of Sriman Mahaprabhu. So anyway, now we'll go to Gokul. We got Mahaprabhu's mercy, so let's go to Gokul and Jaganath's mercy. I believe that Mahaprabhu also embraced the king, isn't it? Yeah, Burida, Burida, you're the most magnificent person. Yes, such. Acha. So he mentions in Chaitanya Church, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, they have three purposes: to meet Sarvabhauma. Hmm? Who's that? I don't know. Oh, told that to Prachabhuja. Acha. Yeah, no, I forgot everything. Yes, because that was right after COVID. We were translating this, and then COVID came. All right. Uh, that was the three people. Was one to meet Sarvabhauma. Kumi Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was, he'd come back by then, yeah. Ramananda Roy and yourself, the king. That was my purpose in coming here to Puri. So anyway, in Gokul is a very beautiful place for the beginning of Krishna's pastimes. His birth is also there, and so many things are there. And because if you read Gopal Champa, you find out that Krishna was actually uh, uh, born as the uh, son of Nanda and Yasoda, and then transferred by some mystic uh, power that Vasudev Krishna appeared to Devaki and uh, and Vasudev. When he brought that Vasudev, he merged into the body of the Brajendananda and Shamsundar, who was already their mother. So he gave birth to twins, actually, according to Gopal Champu. And then he took that baby girl back. There's one very beautiful pastime in the very beginning of Krishna's Leela. Because in Mathura, there lived a very, 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 very low caste lady. And in her youth, she lost her husband. No one to take care of her. So she used to go to the wholesale market and buy some fruits and things. And then find some old logs or banana trees and tie them together and somehow get across the Jamuna. And she would wander from village to village with her basket on her head, calling out the names of her fruits. Kela, kela, banana, apple, apple, orange, orange, like santara, santara. She was calling out the names of her fruits. And she managed to maintain herself by selling these fruits like this in the villages. But as she was wandering from village to village, she would hear that somewhere on the side of the Jamuna, on the eastern bank of the Jamuna, there's some fellow named Nanda Maharaj, and he has such a wonderful, blackish, beautiful boy, Sham Sundar. If you see that boy and you see his smile, you will be so amazed. Hmm? And she kept hearing about this every time. Huh? And she heard so much about this boy that she was thinking every day she would go to get across the Jamuna somehow, and she would call out the names of her fruits. But she was so absorbed in thinking about that little boy that she was hearing about. She didn't even see him, just she heard about him. And she, instead of calling it, she thought she was calling out the names of her fruits, but she was calling out the names of that boy. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. She thought she was calling out the names of her fruits, but she was calling out the names of Nandalala. But somehow she never came to that village of Nanda Maharaj, and she never saw that child. But the more she heard about him, she became so attached to that fellow, huh? Just by hearing about him. That's why we brought you all here this evening, just so you can hear about Krishna and become attached to him, just by hearing. Hmm? Huh? And every day she would come, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. But somehow she never came to that village. But she became so attracted. She thought, if I don't see this boy, what is the use of going on? I'm just going to give up my life. Hmm? So she got her fruits. Hmm? She found some banana trees. She strapped them together somehow. She got to the other side. And somehow, by Krishna's arrangement, she walked into the village of Gokul. And she was calling out the names of her fruits, but she was actually calling out Krishna's names. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. And Krishna, he heard from inside the palace, some lady is calling his names. So he ran to the front of the palace to see who's there. And he saw it was the fruit lady. So he ran back into his house and he saw how in the Nababa's time they used to barter different things. Because I read, this is 5,000 years ago, I read that money has only been invented in the last 2,000 years, But before, we depended on one another and we helped one another. We traded and bartered like that. Hmm? Now we've invented money, and if I got money, I don't care for anybody else. But before, we depended on each other and helped each other, and bartered and traded. Hmm? So he went to the grain bin and he grabbed some grains of wheat uh, and he ran out to the front of the palace. Uh, uh, and the fruit lady saw this beautiful blackish boy. As soon as she saw that beautiful blackish boy, she knew this is that same boy that I was hearing about. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. But Nandalala, he's just a little boy. He doesn't know he can't hold so many grains. And he wasn't so expert, they were falling out here and there. And he opened up his hand, and just a few little grains are there. And the lady put her basket down. She sat down, said, Lala, what do you want? He said, I want some fruit. Huh? Well, what do you have? And he showed her these few little grains in his hand. Huh? Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. She said, Lala, it doesn't matter. I will give you so many fruits. I will fill your arms with so many wonderful fruits. You just do one thing. You sit in my lap and look into my eyes and say, Maya, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. And Krishna, he looked up the street, he looked down the street, he looked all around. Of course, Krishna doesn't care about the caste or creed or color or anything of his devotee, but still he's playing the part of the son of the king of Braj, Nanda Maharaj. What will happen if people see him in this low caste lady's lap? So he looked up the street, he looked down the street, he looked all around. Then he jumped into her lap and he looked into her eyes and said, Maya. And then he jumped out. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. And that lady, she was just seeing those beautiful little eyes and hearing that sweet voice again and again in her ear, in her memory. Huh? Maya? Hmm? Huh? She was just hearing that over and over again. And she just packed up so many fruits into Lala's arms. He couldn't even hold them out. He's just a little boy. He can't walk straight. He was walking like this. Huh? Huh? And he walked inside the house. Last thing that lady saw was Nanda Lala walking into the house, trying to balance all the fruits like this. Just waddling in a funny little way. Huh? And she picked up her basket and put it on her head and started going back towards Yamuna. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. And she was just remembering again and again those beautiful eyes of this little boy sitting in her lap, you know, and this beautiful voice, Maya. She just kept remembering that again and again. When she got to the bank of the Jamuna, she thought, my basket's very heavy. Huh? And she put her basket down and she looked. Inside her basket were emeralds as big as a fist, diamonds like this, rubies, pearls, gold, silver, so much jewelry was there in her, her basket. But she was just thinking about those beautiful little eyes and that sweet voice. Maya, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. And remembering that beautiful voice and that beautiful face. She said, what is the use of all this? She just threw that basket into the Jamuna. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. She was just dancing down the bank of the Jamuna. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. She was just dancing like a mad woman on the bank of the Jamuna. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. She was never seen again. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Somebody found the body and threw it to the fire. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Maybe one day, by the mercy of our spiritual masters, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, we'll be able to chant with so much love the holy name of Krishna, that Krishna will come and also look into our eyes. Govinda Damodar Madhaveti, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti. So what time is it? 8:20. So we should stop here and have our national anthem, Kirtan. This is the Rastriya Geet of Braj. And this is dancing. Oh, if anybody has any questions first. Yes. Because Krishna went very deep into their hearts. From outside, they're crying. Inside, they were actually enjoying pastimes of Krishna within their hearts. Huh? Just to us, it looks like they were suffering. Just like I explained the other day, uh, where I joined in Boulder, Colorado, we used to go to Denver to chant. Denver's a big city, and it was minus degrees, about minus 10 degrees, and snowing. And if you forgot the holy, we would do kirtan, and if you forgot the holy name, oh, then what am I doing here? So we were just meditating very intensely in the holy name, and we had smiles from ear to ear, you know. And in fact, everybody else was going down the street with their big overcoats and mufflers, and you know, and we were the only people in the whole street smiling. And one girl came by and she saw all the devotees chanting there with big smiles, and she just became entranced. She couldn't move. Then she realized her fingers were freezing. She ran inside the store, bought some muffins, some mittens, and came back to watch the kirtan. And she later came back to the temple and became a devotee. I can't remember her name now. So outside people would think, oh, these poor boys. I mean, one guy came, oh, your guru's probably in Hawaii enjoying himself and you're out here suffering. But we were and so intensely meditating on the holy name, we were in ecstasy. So from outside, it looked like they were suffering. Inside, they were, you know, uh, when you stop seeing outside and you see inside, then you go deep inside the heart. Huh? So deep inside the heart, they were seeing Krishna before themselves, before them. Huh? Mm. Mm. Uh, that that was the benediction from uh, Nard Muni, or that was a benediction Nard Muni asked when he, because the real appearance of Lord Jaganath is that all the queens of Dwarka, uh, they kept hearing Krishna in the night. Oh Baldao, oh Subal, oh Radhe, oh Radhe, and they were saying, "What is this all about?" And they knew Rohini had been there, so they called Rohini, and she put Subhadra at the door. He said, it's very confidential. So she kept Subhadra at the door, and she called all the queens to a special room, and she began to describe Braj Leela to the queens. And Subhadra, she couldn't resist. She put her ear to the door, and hearing Braj Leela, suddenly her eyes became very big, and her arms, shrank into her body, and she just stood there totally stunned. And then Baladev came by, so something happened to my sister. So he put his ear. He began to hear, and his head became very big, and his eyes became very big, and his arms shrunk inside his body. And then Dwarkadish came. He said, "What's going on here?" And he put his head to the door, and he began to listen. And same thing. And then Nard Muni came, and he saw these beautiful forms of the Lord in extreme ecstasy. Uh, and he prayed that may these forms bless all of the poor fallen souls of Kali Yuga. May you take this form and bless all of the fallen souls of Kali Yuga with this form. Mm. So Lord Jagannath is most merciful. Lord Chaitanya is also most merciful. Lord Nityananda is even more merciful. You know, how can something that's infinite be more infinite, but somehow just like uh, uh, amount of numbers is infinite, and then you take the of all the, what do they call them, whole numbers, those numbers that can't be divided by anything else, like 7 and and 11 and what 3. So that's, those numbers are infinite, but still that set of those numbers that are infinite, which is a limited number, still it's infinite. So it's like that. Lord Nityananda is the most merciful, and Lord Chaitanya is the most merciful. Like that. And Srila Prabhupada is the most merciful. Lord Chaitanya, he made the animals dance and chant, but he made less than animals like us to dance and chant. That was Prabhupada's special mercy, I guess. No, I heard the name of Krishna because somehow the chanting amongst all the young people, it became, because there was one movie called Hair, and in that they also chanted Hare Krishna. So amongst all the young people, this chanting, I had no idea what is it all about. But sometimes we would get our guitars and we would chant on this, sing on the streets. We were crazy hippies, so we just, we get our guitars and dance and chant on the street. But I knew nothing about it. Mm-hmm. Uh, and when I first ran into devotees, then I was surprised that, because I had no idea what this was all about. I didn't even know that Krishna wasn't a what, he was a who. And the devotees told me tomorrow's Krishna's birthday. And he has a birthday also. Krishna's not a what, he's a who, and he has a birthday. So even that, uh, Prabhupada said, even chanting by uh, demons, Prabhupada said, will eventually have its effect. Whatever the offense is, that will be temporary, but still you'll get eternal uh, benefit from chanting. So somehow I chanted, and somehow because all my friends were vegetarian, I became vegetarian. Even before, when I was a little kid, I loved peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And if my mother made me some type of meat sandwich, I would go to school. I would trade with my friend. Get his. So that also saved me. I figured out that I must have eaten 50,000 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in my lifetime. Really? I don't know. Krishna's pastimes are always fresh and new for me. Just like some people say the same thing about you. You're taking people to the same old places, telling the same stories all over Braj, but many of the times it's new people. So I'm seeing Vrindavan through their eyes, and I'm seeing Vrindavan again and hearing the pastimes again through their eyes and their ears. Because I remember it was Guru Das who first took us around Vrindavan and told us all the pastimes and things, and he did it was. I don't know if you know Guru. He's been here now. Yeah, so Guru Das. He's very attractive and loving. So that was my first taste of hearing about Krishna's pastimes. And even before I was a devotee, People used to tell me, "You don't tell stories, you tell movies." I don't remember what mundane stories I told, but anyway. So I just dovetailed my propensity. Krishna gave me this facility to tell, to relate stories. So I wish. Hmm? What was that? Oh yeah, actually I forgot. It was the 2nd of June was Vishnu John's, you know, Roman appearance day. Anyway, I forgot about that all this year somehow because we were traveling too much. But one time I joined him in, where was it? Austin. He was just starting a temple there, and somehow I couldn't get along with our temple president in Houston, and uh, so I left and ran to Austin. Uh, I won't tell. He said that was our ghastly Leela. So anyway, we had this. He was in there was a fourplex apartment, and we were renting one apartment upstairs, and the landlady lived downstairs. And this is the first time Vishnujan got a bus. He bought a big red San Antonio City bus, and he painted Vishnujan Yogamobile on the side, very psychedelic letters, and it was a great big bus. And so the landlady, she didn't like this bus in front of her apartment building. And sometime in America, they're afraid to go talk to you directly, so they called the police. But she told the police, she didn't want it to get too much trouble. So actually, they're very nice boys. They don't smoke. They don't drink. They don't have girls in their apartment. And the police said, "My God, what the hell they do for fun?" So anyway, we moved the bus. But we used to have these. Vishnujan was so amazing. He would every morning we'd have this Mangalarti. Sansadava Naladidano Tranaya Karinya Ganaganatam. But it was so ecstatic, even though we were just singing like this, so not to disturb anyone. Mm. And every night a different person would come, and he had more or less an introductory lecture that he had down pat. And he would tell the same lecture every single night. I knew every word, every sentence he started, I could end it. But I would sit on the edge of my seat just to hear him say it. That's how I learned it. That's what I got from Mr. John, was a way to speak. And he spoke in such a way that a child could understand, a scholar could understand. You know, he had this wonderful quality. Mm. And his voice was just heavenly. Even if I don't know that it's a Vishnujan Swami Kirtan that somebody's playing, uh, just the sound will make my hair stand on end. Even before I recognize that it's Vishnujan Swami. Oh boy, he used to sing he was so attractive. Mm. Hmm? Do we have it in this book? I don't think it's in this book. I don't think it's there. I used to keep it on a piece of paper. Check the papers for there. No, let me see if I have it on. Yes, I used to keep it on. Nope, don't have it. And I'm pretty sure it's not in here. Anyway, Vishnunath had a very wonderful melody. Mm. Gopinath, Gopinath, Mama Nivedana Shuno, Visai Durjana, Sadakamarata, Kichu nahi mora guna, Gopinath, Mama Nivedana Shuno, Vishai Durjana, Sadakamarata, Kichu nahi mora guna, Gopinath, Gopinath, Amar Bararasa Tumi, Tomara Charane, Loinu Charana, Tomara Kingoro Ami. Gopinath, Gopinath, Amarabarashatumi, Tomara Charane, Loinu Sharana, Tomara Kingoro Ami. Gopinath, Gopinath, Kemone Shodibe More, Najani Bakati, Karme Jadamata, Oriche Samsara Gore. Gopinath, Gopinath, Kimone Shodibe More, Najani Bhakati, Karme Jadamati, Oriche Samsagore. Gopinath, Gopinath, Sakali Tomaramaya, Namae Maya Bola, Jnana Sunirmala, Swadhinana Ekaya. Gopinath, Gopinath, Sakali Tomaramaya, Nahi Mama Bala, Jnana Sunirmala, Swadhinana Ekaya. Gopinath, Gopinath, Tumito Sakale Paro, Durjane Tarite, Tomara Chakate, Kiate Papiro Ara. Gopinath, Gopinath, Tumito Sakale Paro, Durjane Tarite, Tomara Sakate, Kiate Paviro Aro. Gopinath, Gopinath, Tumi kripa parabara Jivera karane Asiya prapanje Lila kovi surestara Gopinath Gopinath Tume kripa parabara Jivera karane Asiya prapanje Lila koilo subisara Gopinath Gopinath Amiki doshe doshi Asura sakala Pailo charana Dino data kilo bosi Gopinath Kigoshe doshi Asura sakala Pailo charana Vinodata kilo boshi Gopinath 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 Hare Krishna. So I think we'll end here. Huh? Huh? No, it's too late. This was very nice, remembering my good friend just Vishnu Jan Swami. Yeah. See the Jai.